Hallo miteinander, I'm Gesche6, and this is Three Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey. A title that sounds as adorable as the pixel graphics look, we are immediately presented with. This is a fairly young RPG, a genre where any new entry within the Touhou fandom faces fierce competition. What does this one do to set itself apart? We will see. Over the course of my own playthrough, I've made several backup files. For this video, only a few of them should give you a suitable enough impression. We begin very early in the game. Sunny, Luna and Star are all only level 9 here, and they are climbing a mountain. Already we've picked up a noteworthy item, the revive spell. The issue is it has to be crafted first. All spells and equipment have to be, and we lack a component. That's disappointing, but so far intended. Meanwhile, we've engaged in a battle. No random encounters exist, all monsters move around the map as you do. Combat is not classically turn-based, but dependent on an active timed battle system. This means that not only should you make smart decisions, but you need to make them with little hesitation. It is not looking well for us, as Sunny Milk has been knocked out cold. Reviving a fallen party member is no big issue, so long as you can stay in control of the fight. We did win, but it sure wasn't pretty. Is this an especially hard game? Or was I just terrible back then? No to the first and yes to the latter. We did just about everything wrong there, and I don't simply mean misclicking Luna instead of Sunny on a heal. In the next fight, I'll show you what you're supposed to do. The revive spell may still be out of reach, but the last battle gave us enough materials to make Red Geta Plus. We will be putting them on at some point. So, you wanna know the ultimate strategy? Simple, you just do this. The key to winning at Three Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey is to enable Auto Battle. You just push a few buttons, then you take your hands off your keyboard or set the controller down and let the computer handle everything. Sounds pretty boring, right? Well, there's a little more to it. The auto battle function didn't call itself so, it said tactics. As you can see, these tactics have pretty complex looking tables and many menus as their bases. While they are a little tricky to decipher for new players, once you've set yourself up, the tactics command won't be any less flexible than as if you gave commands manually. You are given a tactics preset early on, and what we are using right now isn't too different, save that we have incorporated a magic attack spell and another one for healing. Nice, Sunny got a level up. We can see how that raised her stats. The attributes that grew the most were her hit points as well as attack power. She is indeed the physical powerhouse among our trio, the warrior archetype. Finally, we found the material to concoct the revive spell. Since Sunny isn't set to spend her magic points in any other way, she will be the one to cast it should her friends be downed. As a contrast, Luna Child is more of a wizard, strong in attack magic but very vulnerable to physical hits. Even the floor will choose to hit her in the face. Clumsy Luna does in fact faceplant every single time you choose to escape from a battle. Star Sapphire is actually a hybrid of her friends, decent in everything but a master of none. Because of that, I tend to use her mostly as a dedicated healer. You could say she is our cleric, a cleric that has never seen the inside of a church, I'm sure. We started this encounter against 4 opponents. Even though we were weaker in numbers, it is practically in the bag now. That is the power of the tactics system. You are not expected to take any time to think or wrestle with the interface and its many submenus. If you insist on manual fighting, you will likely see a game over and be sent back to the last of these blue save crystals you visited. Simply interacting with them refills your resources, but you have to actively write a save if you don't want to risk losing your progress. The reason we didn't was just for the purposes of making this video. We have crafted the base version of a leaf fan. That and the red geta seem to be hinting at a certain annoying Tengu journalist. That we are getting her items close to one another might have some significance. The fan could be useful. The reason we didn't equip it is because our accessory slots are already occupied by math homework, English homework, and video game software. These raise the experience we gain as well as material drop rate. A little secluded was this orange crystal. Those are teleporters, fast travel if you want. The 3 fairies are hoppin' and flappin' through a big open world, so that kind of convenience is welcome. Occasionally returning to their home is recommended, as you can harvest mushrooms there. They grow on their own as you are otherwise busy progressing through the story. This game being an RPG, it of course has more than the bare minimum of a story. The 3 Fairies of Light want to get revenge on Cirno for losing the Great Fairy Wars against her. Their goal is to force the strongest fairy into giving them mountains of delicious ice cream. Without taking too much away, something else might happen that will raise the stakes. But overall, it's a puny, silly plot to fit our heroines. You cannot expect 3 plucky fairies to receive a Greek epic about them. On the overworld, only one of the fairies is ever shown. Right now it's Star Sapphire, but a few moments ago we swapped between them. The group leader is not just cosmetic, otherwise you'd see me pick no one but Luna. Every fairy has a special effect. Star will display the remaining number of monsters for the current map. Luna steps silently, so certain aggressive monsters won't actively chase you. Finally, Sunny makes it so that you and all monsters are always visible, even if the foreground would hide them. With an isometric view, that is more helpful than you would think. Sunny is canonically the fairy that is closest to a leader of the trio. However, this game makes Star into the protagonist more than anyone. Most likely because the developer, Yomogisoft, likes her best. Had I been at the reins, it would have been Luna. And she would have been an unbearable Mary Sue. This chest with an elixir was trickier to reach than it seemed. We tried to approach it from the south and gave up because the fairies can only jump a height of 2 steps at once at this point of the story. There are items you can craft to raise the number of steps they can climb. This is how 3 Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey creates puzzles and a sequence, as in the sequence we love breaking in Metroid. You'll find a tall obstacle in the world, and only much later in your quest will you be able to clear it. That already is the extent of Metroidiness you can find in this game. No E-tanks or missiles or such. There is a raven, but I could not spot a beak on her. We've just reached another save crystal. Whenever you find one in the wild, it is an indication that a boss fight could be ahead. Such is the case. We therefore exchange our farming equipment for something that will actually aid us in battle. The Bagua furnace for warrior Sunny, the magical broom for wizard Luna, and the red geta to speed up our cleric Star. More important than even that is that we tweak our tactics. In the early hours of Three Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey, consumable items are much more efficient at healing and reviving than the respective spells. That's why we're setting up small potions and phoenix tails for now. Apart from that, we also want Star to use potions more liberally, whipping them out when anyone falls below 70% health. Against the random monsters so far, we didn't do so above 50%. We cannot be that reckless anymore with who's ahead. We press on until we are stopped by a cutscene. Normally, we would be ambushed by a camera's flash and 2 tengu, but because of this stray snake, Aya's sprite somehow couldn't land. As the artwork suggests, we are conversing with both her and Hatate. Said artwork is really cute, but I do think that the contrast of the cleanly hand-drawn style is a little too strong compared to the pixel art. Touhou Shoujo Tale of Beautiful Memories, for example, had more harmony in its visuals. On the other hand, it was always squeezing massive badonkas onto your eyes. There is apparently a bounty on the fairies' heads, and Aya and Hatate have come to collect. That's kind of gruesome. Let's defend ourselves. The duo of Tengu journalists is only the second boss fight of the game, but it can already be quite nasty. Both opponents have pretty similar movesets, with their most dangerous attack being Great Whirlwind. It's a hard-hitting physical attack with a long charge-up time, and it will target all 3 fairies. If it lands a critical hit, it might even down a character at full health. All we can do against it is heal up all the incoming damage. We were actually 3 tiny hit points away from wiping just then. Above Aya and Hatate are some symbols. Those are buffs increasing their speed and defense. There is a magic spell to purge buffs from enemies, but you do not have it at such an early point. Something that I think we could have done better here would have been to focus on one target. There are quite a few bosses where you're supposed to beat opponents in quick succession, otherwise the survivor goes into pissy boss mode or outright uses a battle ender. Yet I don't think this was one with such mechanics. We still prevailed despite strategic shortcomings. It wasn't an encounter that even had that much strategic freedom to begin with. Don't get me wrong, I think Three Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey is entertaining even at this point, but I want to show you something that is much more representative of its potential as an RPG. We shall load the file lpboss3 for that, which does a pretty massive time skip. We are level 82 now, with our hit points in the quintuple digits. Our equipment was selected from a pretty huge catalog, plus the new zone we find ourselves in is called Suwa Province, and it's basically a theme park of murder. We've warped right onto the doorstep of its irresponsible proprietor. The tactics tables we're using now have become unrecognizably more complex. If I went over them with you in detail, it would be as dry as it would be overwhelming. All you need to know for now is that you keep getting new tools throughout the game to incorporate into your tactics tables one at a time. That they end up having as many elements to them as you just saw is a slow, natural process. It won't be rocket science when you're at the helm. The owner of the theme park was already in its name, Suako Moria. The writing in Three Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey is often a little wooden, unfortunately. I think it might be because Japanese and English just use very different phrasing, and that hasn't quite been accounted for. Nonetheless, this exchange is one of the more amusing ones. Though the safety of her theme park is abysmal, we're not greeted with hostility. The goddess is a good sport and likes a juicy bet. Star will tell us what we're after in a moment. Hat. Imagine you beat Suako in a Danmaku battle, and when she tells you that she has no money, and asks if there's something else you might want, I think we would all proclaim, "Give me your hat!" This too is a fight against two opponents. Until we possess it, Gensokyo's greatest Zun hat is somehow a sentient combatant. The first thing you should do in any boss battle once you have the means is to use Star's scouting skill. Only Miss Protagonist has it. Any enemy that was scanned in this way can have their status with all kinds of information viewed, and what's even more important, their tactics tables. Yes, it's both intended and recommended that you learn exactly how your foes operate, especially in this encounter. You see, fighting Suako is a special case. Overall, she will not seem very deadly. But if you handle her like your average boss, you can never win. Zero chance. The issue is that the sentient hat is an incredibly potent healer. You cannot match its output. Notice, however, that the hat has 5 different tactics tables, and at the end of each, it is forced to switch to the next higher tactic. That spells out our goal. We must advance through the phases of the hat until it is locked to tactic number 5. Then it will completely lose its healing spell. Within the first few seconds of fighting, we have already made it to tactic number 2. All that took was buffing our offenses. I usually do that by default. The steps to tactic number 3, however, are already really weird. First off, any buffs we have must be thrown away. Then, the statuses D-Shield, D-Barrier and Slow must stick to every fairy at the same time. Know what that means? Friendly fire. Yes, we must hit ourselves with status effects that you would normally never want. They're awful. Luna first purges the whole party of anything helpful, then comes D-Shield, D-Barrier and Slow. And just for a moment, you could see on the ATB of the hat that it went on to tactic number 3. It's a good thing tactics can be edited mid-battle, otherwise we could never adapt. To push the hat to tactic number 4, we must be affected by Time Stop. That's a problem, as we cannot cast that spell. But Suako can. Alas, she would never just casually use it. Only when she has certain buffs on her will she be forced to, and she normally wouldn't ever get those. Before we help her out, let's revert those crazy commands we programmed in from the previous phase. We'd make complete fools of ourselves if we just left them. So yeah, we must be extremely nice and friendly to Suako by giving her a speed buff and hit point charge, which heals her over time. We're going to set those up instead of the painful magic we've been blasting her with. Only with that kind of positive reinforcement will the goddess apparently be confident enough to unleash her best attack. I unfortunately overlooked that Luna was still removing buffs, so let's pause again and rectify that. To get rid of only negative effects, the Cure spell is intended, not the Clear spell. By this point, you usually wouldn't need to use the cure spell that often anymore, because you have accessories to prevent debuffs. They are bronze, silver and gold rings, and they're a very go-to equipment. That's another reason why this boss will drive an unsuspecting player mad, because you absolutely must remove your gold rings before you start it. Getting past tactic number 2 is agonizing enough if you're involuntarily resisting your own debuffs. At latest, now that we are hoping for all 3 fairies to be time-stopped, we would get stuck. And we just got what we were asking for. Now the hat is on tactic number 4. It's where I got completely stumped and only found a solution by thinking outside the box. At first, the hat's tactic seems to have an easy answer. Have the beneficial spare status on each fairy, which is meant to auto-revive on a knockout, and not have the count debuff active on anyone. Spare is the simple part here. It costs a lot of MP to cast, but you have that spell, so just use it. Count is the real problem. This is an ailment that the Final Fantasies call Doom. It's the pink skull and crossbones symbol we are getting all the time, and when it expires, the respective fairy expires. Suako casts Count on every 10th turn. The issue with it is that it cannot ever be manually cured, it can only be resisted beforehand. Count also ignores your universal debuff resistance. Only items that specifically say that they prevent Count will do that. Ironically, one of those items is the Platinum Ring. It makes getting this far even more impossible. What I believe you're meant to do is to temporarily force Suako into a tactic where she skips her use of Count, but this is very unreliable. Instead, what I recommend is to redial your brain into brute force mode. While the hat only forgets to heal at tactic number 5, at tactic number 4 it's already much worse at it. Only about half as good as originally. We've set ourselves up so that we are always with offensive buffs, and that we are using stronger but costlier attack spells. Our fire is also fully focused on the hat itself. It's a struggle, but it's working. The hat is nearly wiped out. I'm still really amused that the frog hat is a part of this battle instead of, say, Kanako, who sadly makes no appearance in this game. There are memes surrounding Suako's hat, as in because it is so cartoony and googly-eyed, fans joke that it's a parasitic alien. Whenever it's on Suako, it's got tentacles probing her brain and mind-controlling the poor girl. When Gensokyo learns of the sinister invasion, it is already too late. But I digress. Once Suako is on her own, she doesn't do anything new. She does have a move called Time Attack, which gets stronger the longer the fight lasts, until it becomes basically a one-hit KO around the 15-minute mark. And she's gone. She did have loads of money with her. The reason the fairies wanted to extort the hat so badly is because it is one of the mentioned items to raise your climbing height. Crafting it allows you to hop up to 5 steps at a time. Okay, this should do it for our video. Three Fairies Hoppin' Flappin' Great Journey could seem like an auto-battler at a first shallow glance, but as it goes on, it becomes a pretty challenging, high-involvement RPG. I'm Geschidi6, bis bald!